So if you're looking for a mid-range phone that performs like a flagship phone, then these two phones are going to be the ones for you. Now, right here we have the brand new Apple iPhone SE from 2022 and the Google Pixel 5a, which without a doubt are two of the best mid-range phones you can buy, both selling within the $400 range, but also both taking a drastically different approach to what a mid-range phone should be and can be. So in this video, I want to dive into what the differences actually are to help you decide which one is the right phone for you, because like I said, they take drastically different approaches, from the hardware to the software to the internal components. There's just so much that's so different about these phones that it makes you wonder which one's actually the right one for you to get. So let's start off with the physical design, and the first difference is going to be the general size of these. You'll notice that the iPhone is lighter and slimmer and a little bit smaller in all dimensions, which for some people makes it more pocketable, which is also a nice thing to have. But the Pixel's still a relatively moderate sized phone. It's about the same size as like the iPhone 13, as you can see there. And so in general, I don't really think the size is a huge drawback for me, but I am used to larger phones. You'll also notice, as one of the biggest and most divisive differences between these is going to be the display. The iPhone is still using pretty much the same exact design all the way around as the iPhone 8. And with that, you're getting large bezels on the top and bottom. And because you're getting large bezels there, you're getting a substantially smaller screen. So even though the phone is a little bit smaller right here with the iPhone, the screen is way smaller. It's a 4.7-inch 720p LCD, which in all three of those metrics is inferior to the Pixel's 6.3-inch 1080p OLED display. So you're gonna get better color on this, much thinner bezels all the way around. They're both 60 hertz, but in general, the display is going to be just way better on the Pixel. And so for anybody looking to do any kind of gaming or media watching, or really most of what you're doing with your phone, the experience is going to be a little bit more pleasant with the Pixel. With that though, you do have a camera cutout in the top left corner. I mean, anyone who might be worried about that, I would argue that it kind of disappears. Like, you stop seeing it very shortly after you get it. Like, I never notice it at all anymore. But, you know, it's something that might bother people. Additionally, they both have a fingerprint sensor. Of course, the fingerprint sensor is on the front of the iPhone, and it's a really nice home button there. It brings you home, does all that stuff. But the Pixel has a fingerprint sensor on the back. And this is kind of an interesting trade-off here, because like when you sign into your iPhone, of course, you put the finger there, but your pointer finger's probably already on the back there anyway. So I think it's a really natural spot to sign in. They both have a reasonably a similar-ish speed for sign-in. I think they both do a really good job. But of course, the home button on the iPhone also brings you back home. The fingerprint sensor on the Pixel only signs in, it doesn't really do anything else. Now, looking at the rest of the design, they both have a power button on the right side. The power button, of course, on both of these, if you press and hold, can summon the voice assistant. And on the left side, we have our volume buttons on the iPhone, as well as that little switch there that goes into silent mode. That's a big win for the iPhone, whereas the Pixel only has a volume rocker on the right side. Going around the rest of the phone, I mean, you're gonna notice on the bottom, we have two speakers on each of these. On the top, we have a microphone on the Pixel, but the microphone, of course, is going to be in the bezel on the iPhone. And then a big win for the Pixel here is that it does have a headphone jack. Personally, I don't really use the headphone jack all that often, but I could see a lot of people using it in their car, in a stereo, a lot of other places. Like my dad uses his headphone jack all the time, and it's really convenient to have that. So that's a big win for the Pixel. Now, we're gonna get into software a little bit later on in this video, but I wanna point out that when you hold the power button on the Pixel, it gives you, obviously, Android 12 there, a really nice layout that allows you to contact an emergency contact really quickly. So if you're in a dark alley, something's happening, that's a really quick, convenient way to do that. Of course, you can power it off, you can restart, you have Google Pay right in the middle, and you have some household things on the bottom for smart home type stuff if you want to control your lights or your garage door or whatever it might be. Flipping over to the back, you'll see that this is a big difference that actually leans to the iPhone. Although, in general, I'd say the physical design is a little bit more favorable for the Pixel. The iPhone pulls through by having a glass back. It comes in 3 different colors as well, black, white, and this product red, which I think looks really, really nice. The Pixel, instead of a glass back, is polycarbonate, and there's only one color. It's greenish black, but of course you can always get a skin for this to make it whatever color you want, or get a case for it, and I can link those down below, but again, that's gonna be a win for the iPhone. Even though this is polycarbonate on the Pixel, I don't really think that's really a big problem for me. You really get used to it, especially if you have a case on, it doesn't matter. But really the important thing is that they're both water resistant. They're both rated IP67, so you don't have to worry about getting these wet. I think that's a huge positive. Now you might notice I didn't talk a whole lot about the battery or the charging, and that's because really, from my experience, they both do a really good job with the battery. It's not gonna be the best ever, but the iPhone SE is lasting about 2 hours longer than the previous model from 2020, whereas the Pixel, of course, has a larger battery, but they use battery life slightly different with different processors. And so with that, you're getting a similar-ish battery life from my experience. The only difference is really going to be in the charging, because you're getting 20 watts on the iPhone and 18 on the Pixel. The Pixel has a larger battery, so it does take marginally longer to charge up the Pixel. I think most people charge overnight anyway, and they both have wireless charging, of course. So from a charging and battery standpoint, I don't think that's a big enough difference to really sway you and influence your decision between these two phones. And of course, on the bottom, how could we forget the classic Android versus iPhone, USB Type-C versus Lightning port. This I have to give as a huge win for the Pixel, being that USB Type-C is everywhere, charging laptops and iPads and headphones and earbuds and pretty much anything out there. It's a really common cable. So physical design, I have to give the win to the Pixel. But now the camera, and this is where it gets really, really interesting. This is where both of these devices kind of follow the same thing. They both have fantastic software and great processing, combined with some kind of older sensors. So the sensors on the Pixel are really the same ones we've been seeing for a little while. It's a 12 megapixel wide angle and a 16 megapixel ultra wide. It's nice that you do have that added ultra wide lens, and I'll show you that in a second. But on the iPhone, you're getting, again, really the same sensor we've had for a really long time, but with the new A15 Bionic chip on here, the same chip that we're using on the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max. It's going to give you some really amazing capabilities with computational photography and software in the background, but enough talk on that. Let's actually get into the camera comparison. So you can see right here, this is a low light comparison. Really surprising that you actually don't have a night mode on the iPhone. I'm not sure why they didn't add that, because you do have the software and the processing power behind that. I just don't know why iPhone didn't add that. You can get a third-party app if you want, but the Pixel absolutely pulls ahead here, not only having night mode, but also astrophotography mode. And Google has really kind of been a pioneer in this space, and so it's no surprise that this is going to win in that category. When it comes to zooming, they both do a pretty decent job. Google has their up-res, their kind of improved quality when you zoom in, but the iPhone also does a really similar thing as well. So they both look really good when you zoom in as well. Of course, the Pixel 5a also does have that ultra-wide lens, which I think is useful, especially in tight spaces or landscapes. Looking at the selfie lens, they both do a great job, but the Pixel 5a does a slightly better job if there's a really bright background. Again, they both capture great color, slightly different photo styles, and in portrait mode, you can see that, again, once again, they both do a fantastic job here. In a regular selfie, I think the skin tones look slightly better on the Pixel, but again, that's just my skin tones, as you can see here. Everybody's gonna be slightly different, but I think the iPhone looks a little bit too yellow. Once again, great sharpness and great detail in pretty much every situation that I've used these. Here you can see a very bright green plant that looks really detailed in both of these cameras. So you can leave a comment below and let me know which of these two phone cameras you think actually looks better. Let's actually get into a video test. This is where I think you'll see a pretty substantial difference, where the iPhone, in my opinion, is a lot better. So here's a 4K video test with the iPhone SE. As you can see, really great color, really great focus everywhere you go, very sharp image. And I mean, it's no surprise, the iPhone has always been doing a fantastic job with its video. And now here's the video with the Google Pixel 5a. Again, pretty decent color on here. This one looks like it's a little bit over sharpened or a little too contrasty maybe. But I mean, it's no surprise that the iPhone has a slightly better video quality. The Pixels, especially the A series, has never really been known for its video quality, although the photos do look fantastic. Regardless, it's still able to shoot in 4K, and videos still look pretty decent. And here's a shot with the front-facing camera on the iPhone SE. Unfortunately, this is limited to 1080p, which is very similar to what we'll see on the Pixel in a second, but again, pretty decent color, pretty good focus, overall a decent video. And here's the front-facing camera on the Google Pixel 5a. Now, this camera is in the corner of your display, so it does look a little bit strange. Like, I feel like I have to look down a little bit to film this. But again, this is filming in 1080p. Neither one of these are going to be fantastic for a vlog-style video, but for a mid-range phone, they get the job done. One of the major improvements that both these phones have really been marketing is the addition of 5G. So the iPhone SE from 2020 didn't have 5G, and the Pixel 4a didn't, so now these both added that, which is a nice thing. It makes it a little bit more future-proof, especially if you're buying a phone and you want to have that for 4, 5, 6 years. You kind of want to have 5G on there, but neither one of these has millimeter wave 5G. A quick little background on 5G, you have two different bands of the frequencies. You've got millimeter wave, which is Verizon, which is a lot faster, but a shorter range. And then you have sub 6 gigahertz, which is T-Mobile and a lot of the other ones, which is really what's more widespread right now. And so both of these do have access to that one. As far as the processors on these, this is a landslide, going to be the main reason anybody buys the iPhone over the Pixel. The iPhone has the most powerful processor in any phone right now. It's the A15 Bionic, which is incredibly fast, great for gaming, great for editing videos, whatever you might be doing on this. Not only is it going to be fast today, but it's going to be almost imperceivably different in speed in 4 years, 5 years. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this phone easily lasted somebody 6 years and still felt really fast after that. Now, that's not to say the Pixel has a slow processor. It's not a flagship processor, but it's still just one tier down. It's the 700 series Snapdragon, the 765G, which means it's still going to be really fast and have great capabilities. And being that it's running Google's version of Android, it's a relatively light version of Android, which means things are fast, they're smooth, you don't have a lot of animations, and it's still going to feel very quick after 3 or 4 years. But I think that from a longevity standpoint, the iPhone is going to feel faster for longer. And out of the box, I would argue most people are not going to notice a substantial difference in speed unless you're doing things like, for example, editing or exporting videos from like an Insta360 action camera, for example. Now, I'm not one to really focus on specs too much, but there is one big difference that you might not notice when you're first buying these phones, and that is the storage that it comes with. Even though the iPhone is $20 less, selling at $430 versus $450 for the Pixel, you're actually getting half the storage. You're getting 64 gigabytes on the iPhone, which if you're shooting any kind of video or really, it fills up really quickly. And of course, Apple wants you to upgrade to iCloud. That's why they're giving you a phone that lasts so long, because I mean, we'll talk more about that in a second, but Apple loves subscriptions. It's a great business model for them. But the Pixel is giving you 128 gigabytes, which is double the storage there. And when you actually look at both of them at 128 gigabytes, the iPhone is going to be more expensive. So as far as configurations go, I mentioned that you only have one color and one size for the Pixel, and you also only have one configuration for storage, 128 gigabytes, whereas the iPhone comes in 64 gigs at the base level, which is, I think, kind of low. I think 128 really should be what you get, but if you want 128, you add $50, and you add another $100 if you want to go up to 256. So in a way, that's an advantage for the iPhone. If you're willing to spend the money and go up to 256, that is more storage than you're able to get on the Pixel. But at that price, there are other phones from Android that offer the same storage and some other improved specs. So that's kind of a tricky one, and it comes into a balance of what you really want. But of course, what about the software? I'm not going to make this an Android versus iOS video, but I want to point out that you are getting some big advantages of buying an entry model for the iPhone. And this is going to essentially give you iMessage and FaceTime and AirDrop and all these things that a lot of people, at least here in the United States, use every day. And so you kind of integrated into this community, this group of people that love to use iMessage as an easier way to message, and you don't mess up group text. And there's a lot of social pressure to actually do that. And it is convenient as well, especially if you're using an iPad or if you want to get an Apple Watch or if you're using a MacBook. Like AirDropping and iMessage, it all ties in really well. But if you're not in that ecosystem, Google makes it easy as well. If you're messaging people that use Android phones, you can use RCS, which gives you a lot of what AirDrop and what iMessage already gives you. Additionally, you have Nearby Share, which is kind of the same as AirDrop, just maybe a step behind. It's really similar in a lot of ways, and so it's still very, very capable. The software on both of these, in my opinion, is amazing. I love how fast and smooth they both work, but in general, you're gonna get a little bit more customization with Android, and it is going to work more with Windows laptops and a lot of other devices out there. They play more nicely with everybody, different earbuds, different smartwatches. But the iPhone, of course, is giving you iMessage, which for a lot of people, like it or not, is going to be a big decision maker. So in general, both of these are amazing mid-range phones, but they make some pretty major compromises. Both are lightning fast and they give you access to flagship products. Apple's flagship product being the Apple ecosystem, and Google's flagship product being their version of Android with the voice assistant and everything like that. And they're giving you those flagship products in a more budget-friendly phone, which is a very appealing buy, which is why in a lot of ways, these are better than many other mid-range phones out there. And both of these perform really well right now, but it comes down to what you actually want to compromise. Do you want to compromise hardware and display and get a smaller display, massive bezels around there, but you're going to get iMessage and a chip that lasts much longer and is much faster? Then the iPhone's probably going to be better. And in general, if you're somebody who plans on keeping a phone for 6 years, the iPhone SE is going to be a perfect purchase for you. It's going to be looking pretty antiquated, but it's going to be a great phone. However, if you plan on keeping your phone for maybe 3 or 4 years, I think the Pixel is going to be a better phone for you. You're getting much better hardware, a more future-proof display. It's going to be more fun to watch videos and use your phone in general. And you do have the dual cameras on the back, which, of course, ultra-wide lens gives you a whole different style of photography that you otherwise can't get with the iPhone. On top of that, night mode and things like that. So in general, it's just very different people are going to want these phones. So I think by now, if you're watching this video, you are probably very opinionated and you know exactly which phone is the right one for you. And if that's the case, leave a comment below and take a vote for if you are Team iPhone SE or Team Pixel 5a. I want to hear from you guys which one you like best. As always, if you enjoyed this video, consider liking and subscribing. I'm Mike O'Brien. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.